Welcome back, everybody. It's your buddy Orange Hat, and I'm here with Kate from Nerd with Cigar. How you doing?
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me back again to
Yep,
talk about the Acolyte and more.
yep. And we are coming back to do exactly that. We're going to be discussing the Acolyte, the good, the bad, the weird, the lore, and all that stuff. Um, and I'm also going to be dispelling some of the nitpicks because I want to do my best to not give Disney any of the ammunition that others don't really care about. Because I'm sorry, folks, when it does come to some of these nitpicks, you are only playing in the Disney's hands, and you are giving them all the ammunition they need to continue their claims of, oh, this is that, or you guys are this, you guys are toxic, you guys are that. Me, I'm tackling the show from an objective standpoint, so they have no freaking complaint. So they have no way to counter because they can't counter what is fact. They can try, but they won't get anywhere. So
And then just Orange brought me on as balance because I have told y'all since the beginning
she's more
I,
subjective.
I can't do. I didn't want to watch this show. I
I know.
still don't
I
want to
forced her.
watch this show,
I
but I'm
forced her.
watching it for you guys, for the viewers.
Yeah.
And just to preface, as a lot of you might know, I'm also watching House of the Dragon, and to watch a show that's well made, and then to watch a show that's like my main question when watching the show isn't nitpicking all of the like stuff that everybody wants to nitpick. You know what I think about 80% of the time when watching the show? Where's the
Mm.
budget? These sets look like trash. This looks like garbage. Where did the money go? Where did the money go, Disney? Where's the money? Because on one hand, you get House of the Dragon and you can see every step of the way. You're like, wow, they really spent a lot of money on cinematography and lighting. This is really good. Wow, the set design is really good. They've really like overlapped CGI with set design. Wow, this is really good. And now Acolyte, you turn around and I'm watching the same like these two shows side by side basically throughout the week. And Acolyte looks like from every step of production, it looks like a 13-year-old or a 16-year-old handled this. From the script to the set design to the drama that's happening. Orange mentioned this the last time. It's not the worst episode, but it is very like teen drama esque and
And we
very
will get
like
into that because
eh.
before we do get into it any further, I do want to let people know the schedule. Monday, tomorrow, 8 p.m. is going to be Monday Night Rants. However, it's going to be more refined than it was last week. We're going to have 4 people on at a time. If there are more people that want to come in, do their rants and whatnot, we're going to cycle them in and out. We're going to try to keep it civil and whatnot. We're also most likely going to try to stay on topic as best as we can. Last week was the kickoff of it to basically it's the insanity of the rants. So now we're going to refine the craft a little bit. Tuesday is going to be nature horror theme for the theme stream at 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon, where we will be discussing, or where I will be discussing movies like Jaws, Peter Benchley's Creature, Peter Benchley's The Beast, and whatnot, how those kind of movies added to the horror genre and what they added to the horror genre. Wednesday, I don't believe is ones and twos yet. Ones and twos is going to be Mad Max 1 and 2 with
Nice.
Mara. I have not seen the Mad Max movies, so it's going to be a new one for me.
I've only
And
seen the second one, and that was the one where they got good. Like the first one was just kind of like the dip your
I don't
toe
know.
in, and the second one is like the good one, and then the third one they got like too overhyped for their own good. So the second one's like the good one.
Yeah. And then for singles on Thursdays at 8 p.m. in the last 2 weeks of July, we're going to have Tarzan or Legend of Tarzan with Bill Skarsgård and Samuel L. Jackson, as well as the next one will be Last Voyage of the Demeter, which came out last year. Good movie. I liked it anyway. But yeah, and saying hello to the chat again. We got MB Geeks. Good to see you. Good to see you. And Vanya. Good to see you. Good to see you. So moving into the rid of it, folks. Acolyte episode 6 dropped, and it was more of an exposition filler kind of thing, but it also did move the story along a little bit. And there are
Just a
nitpicks.
tad.
There are nitpicks about, oh, people are saying, oh, sex in Star Wars, nudity, and all this shit. It's like, shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about. And again, as always, EU had that in Star Wars. So, yeah. Because we get into the beginning of it, and the twins were switched, which I fucking predicted, by the way. I showed you all in the last episode.
Right?
And
That was the most predictable thing ever, where it was like, oh, ever since
gonna
they
get
released
switched.
the promo,
Yeah.
it was like, oh, is this one going to be the bad one? This one going to be the good one? It's like, okay, we're going to play this game of which is the bad twin and which is the good twin the whole
Yep.
time. And
to give you the skinny of it, folks, Qimir, the Stranger, the Sith, or whatever you want to call him, Darth Smiles, Smilo Ren, whatever.
crazy
he's
hat
doing
guy,
his best.
headbutting people.
Yeah, he's the one that's seducing Osha to the dark side, or making her think and whatnot, basically telling her his philosophy. And they have it on a planet that is possibly Beldemnik or any of the other Cortosis rich planets. But the only problem is in canon continuity, what they call canon. I don't acknowledge this as Star Wars. This isn't Star Wars. There are only two weird Russian sounding names that are planets in which Cortosis is found. So yeah. Because in Qimir's cave, there is a vine or a vein of Cortosis in the wall or in the rock face. So yeah, he mined all that stuff. And there's some problems. We will get into it with the Cortosis,
I have a
category,
question though, because coming from someone who doesn't know the EU as much, what
Yeah.
are fans mad about? The ones who are nitpicky. Are they mad that they didn't introduce EU stuff? And
No, they're
Disney
mad
basically said
about,
we're not,
or
or
the
are
way
they
that I
are they
see it,
mad that they're changing the EU? Because
they're cherry picking. What they're
okay,
doing is they're cherry picking. However, when they do cherry pick it, they're not doing it as well or with the same rules as what the EU did. Like Cortosis, it's brittle. It only survives 3 or 4 strikes at most with a lightsaber, and then that sucker can, and then that
hence
sucker
why
is
he was
caving.
punched in the face,
Yeah,
basically, and then it broke.
yeah. So that shows the brittleness of it. But also Cortosis, folks, is an energy resistant ore. It turns energy back on itself, meaning him using that plasma cutter to fuse his helmet again wouldn't work. Now, when they were doing it with the tiny stops in between, the pauses in between with the cutter, it's like, okay, but then it shows him doing it a lot quicker and whatnot, and it's like, that's where you're inconsistent. That's where it wouldn't work. Because every time you put any sort of plasma energy or an electronic or any sort of electro energy against Cortosis, it shuts down. It wheels back on itself. That's what causes the short in lightsabers, is it's literally causing a feedback loop into the lightsaber. So yeah. But when it
Which is kind of cool. Like,
yeah, oh yeah.
when you
It's
break
very
it
cool to
down,
see.
it's
It's
cool
very cool
that
visually.
within, I don't know, because like I'm a science geek, but then I'm also just like a nerd. So it's cool to see that overlap of like geekdom and nerddom. You know what I mean? We're like, oh, it overlays this, and that's why it short circuits, and you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's just cool to me. Like I find enjoyment out of that.
And so do I. And that's the reason why I like the EU so much, is because it's rich with that sort of stuff. But getting into it, he goes to bathe and clean up, but he knows that she's watching. And yes, he comes out of the lake naked, and also reveals an interesting scar on his back, which I have my own theories on. I kind of agree with Star Wars theory, possibly, or a little bit on that. It's like, I think I know
I'm
where it
just
came
kidding.
from. Yeah. But yeah, I actually do look at Star Wars theories stuff, and I do somewhat agree with them and somewhat not agree with them. Let me also change my avatar because right now I'm in burn it down mode, so want to go to All American. But yeah, we then see that also May and Saul are on their ship and whatnot, and it's like, is he sensing her or is he not? We don't know until turns out we see that he finds out, but we don't know if it's because of that Tinin rat person that reminds me of the Draw species of Star Wars. But there's also, or we don't know, or we also see that droids have factory settings, and you can reset them to factory settings like a cell phone. I'm gonna give you guys
Imagine
a
that.
crash course on droids and shit, and why that's odd. So yeah, we also see that Saul's kind of very distraught, and apparently Vernestra Green Baldy Krillin woman with the Lightwhip. We're gonna go over the Lightwhip stuff. We're gonna basically give our thoughts. I mean, for me in this show, it was exposition heavy, and I didn't find a lot wrong with the exposition except for a few things which I will talk about in this specific category. Like, the Jedi teach you that there's only one way to look at the Force, and if you don't keep up with your training, it fades. And I'm thinking to myself, that is a flawed outlook, especially if you are saying you came from the Jedi Order at first, because we all know there are. Let me put myself on camera here. There are three aspects to the Force: cosmic, unifying, living Force. To give you guys an idea, the unifying force is everything that binds everything together. The living force is essentially part of this unifying force. However, it's focused more on living things. How you can, or how when you're listening to it, you can understand that the force will whisper to you through the living, and you are also more tapped into feeling death in the force when you are part of the living force. That is something that Qui-Gon Jinn was able to tap into a lot of. Obi-Wan Kenobi tapped into the living force here and there, especially when he felt the disturbance on Alderaan. The cosmic force is more along the lines of transcending beyond the living and the unifying. So that is basically, the Jedi teach all three of those different aspects, and some Jedi choose to follow or one of those three. Now, so when he starts explaining his own philosophy, and then he starts pushing Osha's buttons, it's an interesting conversation, because it's like, yes, there be darkness in this child, and she
Right, and they've been planting that seed for a couple episodes though before.
Oh yeah, ever since episode
like
2.
When they were going through the Wookiee planet that's not Kashyyyk.
It wasn't a Wookiee planet. It was just a planet that was like Kashyyyk. So
like Kashyyyk, right?
Kashyyyk light.
Yeah, right. Kashyyyk adjacent. Yeah. Sorry, I had to put in a little funny little quib joke there. But when they're talking and he's like, "Oh, you can't kill them with a weapon," and she's like, "Well, I'll just like take their weapon and kill them with their weapon," and he's like, "But that's using a weapon," and you see him get like frustrated with her because he's trying to like mold her into his way of thinking, but she's like, "No, I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna do this thing," and he just like he keeps getting frustrated, and then you see the continuation in this episode. It's like, okay, we've been laying the groundwork for his training, his non-cis dark side training for a bit now. The only issue I had with like the exposition, I'm okay with exposition. Sometimes you need exposition, and Orange and I were talking about this before the stream started. I'm okay with exposition episodes as long as it lays a good groundwork for the action that happens later on to make the action more heartfelt, and like, why do we have lightsaber battles? Like, with the meaning behind it is why we like lightsaber battles. And we've talked about that before on the stream. But I'm okay with exposition as long as it's done well. what I can't stand, I'm sorry, my dog's barking at somebody.
That's all right.
What I can't stand is when you have a character tell another character in a scene something that both of those characters should already know, just for the sake of the audience. It bothers the crap out of me, and that happened several times in this episode where I'm like, they should already know that.
But yeah, also moving on, or to answer some of these questions, I've been doing pretty well as of recent, but I gotta doing a little bit better right now since pet dog and I had the past 16 years. My condolences to you, bub. I'm sorry to hear.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. I say watch his channel. He's got some good knowledge here and there. And he also has Nick Gillard on the channel every now and then, so can't go wrong there. Darth Tenebris. Yes, Darth Tenebris would be alive during this time. Also, I do believe that even Darth Plagueis would possibly be alive during this time, although I do not think that he would be old enough to be doing anything. He would be kind of be in the middle of the training. This show takes place 134 BBY or something like that. So like 100 years before the Empire rise, or the rise of the Empire.
Rise of the Empire, yeah.
And 100 years before episode 1, so something like that. Although episode 1 is like 13 years before the rise of the Empire, so you know, they screwed up on that. But back to the thing, the show then has its little gimmicky moments where Osha tries to play mechanic and gets fucked up by a droid and a little rat guy, as well as Soul is kind of going rogue. We see Vernestra with her Lightwhip, not to use it in battle, but to kill a creature. And I'm thinking to myself, that's the introduction to the Lightwhip, not battle. Really?
Yeah.
But yeah. And then we also see Osha getting curious about the helmet, how it's sensory deprivational. It deprives you of your senses, so it's just you and the Force. And so she puts on the helmet, and there was nitpicks about, oh, you're trying to steal that moment from the breathing moment of episode 3 where Darth Vader took his first breaths with the helmet. And I'm like, no, not really. To ensure or to give an expression of sensory deprivation, you do also have to give an expression of claustrophobia or of a claustrophobic setting, meaning it's just you inside that helmet, silent with your breathing. So yeah. Hello there. Acolyte is the worst thing to ever come out of Disney Star Wars, and that is saying something. I'll just enjoy the OGs and fuck this trash.
Wait. Hold on. I'm not going to let Kenny say hello there without saying General Kenobi. Sorry, continue, Orange.
He said hi there, not hello there. So.
Oh, shoot. It's really small text. My bad.
Yep. Had no hope there past couple of years, and this validates it. You know what? Hey, man, if that's how you feel, that's absolutely. Me, I've talked with several people who some people enjoy, some people don't, and you know what? That's okay. I was on a guy's channel, Doc Goon, and yesterday, and we talked about the difference. He enjoys the Acolyte. Me, I see the Acolyte as extremely flawed and not as Star Wars. I don't see anything of Disney as Star Wars. I don't acknowledge it as Star Wars. I don't acknowledge Filoni's stuff as Star Wars either. I have been and always have remained consistent on that. So thank you for stopping in, by the way. And also don't forget to smash that like button, folks. Supporting the channel always helps. I'm trying to get to 2,000 subs before the end of the year. So if you guys can help.
Yeah. Kenny, you're still, don't worry, even though it just said hi there, you still get a General Kenobi.
Oh, yeah.
Just for old time's sake.
General Kenobi. Yeah. And Real Nerdy Review. Good to see you. So getting into the categories now. Sex in Star Wars. So there was a lot of people who are like, oh my God, they're going to ship them and they're going to do fucking sex and all that stuff. It's like, I see all these bigger channels. I'm not going to name them all because y'all probably follow them. And I don't really need that sort of shit coming at me because I already had that shit come at me. But the whole sex and Star Wars thing, I do not have a problem with fucking Qimir taking a bath. Because that's not sexual. Also, there's a book, can't remember exactly which one it was. Han Solo's naked in bed under the sheets waiting for Leia. Our games that we
I'm
have,
okay with
Star Wars The
I'm
Old
okay.
Republic.
Yeah. We had nudity.
Your characters fuck their companions if they have a romance with them. They just do a little fade out and fade back in after the deed is done.
I'm okay with having like adult and then child like Star Wars, like I'm okay with, the Clone Wars was more geared toward the younger audience Star Wars. The Star Wars movies, the first 5 were all PG. It wasn't until episode 3 that was PG-13. So huh?
Yeah. But I was answering Axel 5. Isn't Star Wars made for kids? Not always.
Not all of it.
Especially if you look at episode 3.
Episode 3 was a little bit darker, and then the EU gets. I would say even the Mandalorian was more geared toward like adult Star Wars because the violence was a little bit more gritty. EU has some stuff in it that's more adult themed, but like I'm okay with that. I'm okay with having younger geared Star Wars and then adult geared Star Wars. I don't have an issue with like sex or nudity in Star Wars per se, as long as it doesn't deter from the story. Because a lot of times there's gratuitous sex and have it story centric, have it, like a good example would be the nudity in Oppenheimer. It was jarring, it was in your face, but it was specific and it had an intended purpose and it added to the story and added to the scenes. So
I mean, another good example with sex in Star Wars was there was this comic Steve Kenobi showed it on his Twitter thing where it showed a Twi'lek and a guy in a hot tub. They were both naked, not doing the deed, but it was very suggestive. You also have the games like KOTOR or Knights of the Old Republic, Bastila and Revan hitting it off, kind of getting it out or kissing and whatnot. Shit, you can see Bastila in her freaking bra and panties in that show. So, y'all who are making the nitpick, oh, he's coming out naked and stuff. So fucking what?
What I would like though,
oh, Star Wars goes full OnlyFans. You're a fucking idiot and you're retarded, and I don't know why so many people listen to you.
No, because Kylo Ren came out shirtless, and everybody was like, "Oh my gosh!" I think that's just people just being like weird.
It's a nitpick.
What I would like though is for the drama and the writing to match the maturity level of whatever they put in. If you put in sex, if you put in nudity, whatever, okay, so that's mature-ish content, right? Have your writing match that. Nobody's complaining about like Game of Thrones nudity because the content of the thing matches the level of maturity. The writing in the Acolyte is teen level writing, and then we have mature level things. That's the only pick I would have about it. But nitpicking just in general, like, oh my god, nudity.
If you're shitting on the show just to shit on it because it's doing stuff that I'm gonna fucking go here. I'm sorry. A lot of these people who are doing the nitpicks are mainly just pissed off because Disney is doing shit that they wanted live action Star Wars to have before Disney got a hold of it. It's a small sense of insecure jealousy. Right. And I am going to say that because that is how it is being perceived. That is how my mind is perceiving how these people are acting. When you're saying, oh, it's freaking Star Wars going OnlyFans. I'm sorry. That is beyond stupid. It's beyond hyperbole, folks. That's just bitching just to bitch. That is just complaining just to freaking shit on it. And it's like, you don't see anything. You don't see ass crack. You don't see nuts. You don't see dick. You don't see any of that. You don't see boobs or any of that either. And it's just absolutely disingenuous to go there, because if you are going to have these criticisms, you should have these criticisms in a manner that is drawing either comparatives, because yes, the whole sexual content in Star Wars thing is comparative to the EU because there is sexual content in the EU. But if you're going to just say, well, what is the purpose here or there? It is literally to drop his guard, to allow Osha to have a sense of, I can get the drop on him, and then reveal to her, I've known you were there the entire time. Also, you're the one with the weapon. You're not a prisoner here. He completely is there to have, or to seduce her to the dark side, to show he doesn't fear her. He has no reason to fear her because he's going to try waking her up. And yes, this sort of stuff happens in the EU. When you are seducing a person to the dark side, when you are trying to turn them, it is a seduction. So there is going to kind of be a little bit of passion. There's going to be a little bit of suggestive language. There's going to be a little bit of that.
That's why people have memed Anakin's seduction to the dark side into oblivion. You know, the biggest one I know of is, okay, so episode 3 is PG-13, which means you can have one F word. Where would you put it? And it's always in that scene where he's like, where he's like, oh, you know, you'd like to kill me, wouldn't you? And they change kill for the F word, and you know, Anakin goes, I certainly would like to. So, and yeah, you're right. There is a certain level of passion to it because, you know, we see, at least for Anakin, you know, I'll use him as an example. He's been in a war for a couple of years. He's in the grips of despair. He's about to have a kid. He loves his wife so much. It's in hiding. You see him in like this moment of desperation. And then the seduction to the dark side is, I can offer you a solution to that. And you see that internal struggle. So yeah, there should be something enticing about it. Hey, don't you want to look like me? Don't you want to be cool like me? Don't you want to, you know? So yeah, these scenes where he's shirtless. Yeah, don't you want power? Don't you want, like, doesn't this look enticing? Like, it's not so bad over here on the dark side.
I mean, the thing
is, it's supposed to be lustful in a way. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes. And in a way, a lot of people are like, well, the shirtless stuff. It's like, guess what? Shirtless shit happens in fucking movies and shows. And it also happens in Star Wars.
Was he supposed to go in a swim with, like, fully clothed? Like, I'm sorry. Like, what?
No, he was bathing. He was bathing.
Right. So I'm sorry. Like, do you shower with your clothes on?
Yeah. Do you? Because here's the thing, folks.
I don't.
Sith, they don't have all the amenities until later on in the Bane line, as well as the Sith army way back when, before, or during Malgus and them. The Sith in hiding, who are not supposed to reveal themselves, they're not going to have all the amenities like a Santa steam, which is the equivalent to a shower in Star Wars, folks.
Like
a lot of people
and stuff.
Yeah, Santa steams are literally, they're getting hit with
their showers. Those things that look like yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's like a sauna. It's like a sauna, but
and you step into it.
Soap and whatnot, yeah. You have soap, you can, or it's basically you're getting steam to open up your pores, and then you're cleaning off. That's what a Santa steam is. Kind of like a sauna, but you're also rinsing off as well. Kate?
Sorry, my dog's barking. Hold on one second.
All right. It's all right. But yeah, folks, when it's like, when he's not trying to seduce her to fuck her. He's trying to seduce her to turn her to the dark side.
But it looks,
it's not that, it feels, it's not a sexual seduction.
It feels sensual because it's all kind of wrapped into that, like, lustful turning, you know.
The dark side allows you to feel.
Right, where
the Jedi
it's like, hey, let go. Yeah. Right, the Jedi is like, hey, right, exactly. Hey, give in to these temptations, give in to these feelings, give in to these lusts. Versus Jedi was like, don't let your emotions control you.
Yeah.
feel them, but don't let them control you.
I mean, just look at the Sith code.
Yeah.
Peace is a lie. There's only passion. Through
Mm-hmm.
passion, I gain strength. Through
Mm-hmm.
strength, I gain power. Through
Mm-hmm.
power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall free me.
Right. It's all about freedom and power. Yeah.
And it's as he said, I want freedom to do or to wield my power as I see fit, not as the Jedi see fit. Hey, Riot Kitty, good to see you.
And we
I
even see
mean-
that in episode 2 when we see Anakin and Padme hanging out, and he uses the Force to like cut up the space pear or whatever it was,
Sure,
that fruit. Yeah. And he's like, for like according to the Jedi, this would
Obi-Wan
be
caught
wrong.
me doing this, he'd be very grumpy.
Right, because even using it in day-to-day, making your life easier, like Matilda style, is not the Jedi way.
No.
Which I could never be a
down and
Jedi
toil.
because, right, I could never be a Jedi because I would be,
Well, no.
be like,
Me? I'm not a
wow.
Jedi. Fuck no, I'd be a Sith.
Oh, for sure. I don't know if I would go full Sith, but I would definitely play maybe both sides and be like a.
I wouldn't follow the rules of the Jedi. I couldn't follow the rules of the Jedi. I just couldn't.
No, I couldn't.
But-
I couldn't either. It's too
Yeah.
strict and too
Dogmatic.
Yeah, it's very. No, don't get me wrong. I love the Jedi in theory and in the movie settings and whatnot, and it's their tragic story is beautiful.
Mhm.
To see like their downfall and whatnot. And I like
Yeah.
the Jedi. I just could never be a Jedi.
Yeah. So moving on, we already talked about the Cortosis to a fair point in the giving our thoughts on the Acolyte episode 6. So we are going to skip the Cortosis, which I was going to bring up, but we already talked about it. So did Saul sense May, or did the Ratman, that tiny and whatever Ratman Basil, is it Basil 40? But anyway, did he sense her, or did the Ratman give her away? Now, it's up in the air because the Ratman is there when Saul stuns her. But the thing is, a Jedi... Now, it's not really explained how he figured it out. It really isn't. And people are left to draw to their own conclusions. Me, I'm leaning towards or ever so slightly, he knew exactly who she was because he was baiting her with questions. Or he was also baiting her with the conversation, seeing how she would react. He could sense certain things. Or Jedi is aware of these things. So it's going to, or he's basically setting it up to, it's like, yeah, you're
And
May.
unless they pull a bait and switch, she doesn't know. She doesn't sense that he's pulling, like, so he's able to do all of this sensing and like
She's not
manipulating.
trained for that.
Correct. And she has no idea who he is. So she's even more vulnerable. She doesn't have defenses up, and she's not trained.
Yeah.
So it's like it's like a sheep to a slaughter, basically. Unless they just pull a fast one at the end and be like, "Oh, she knew the whole time because she's a girl and girl power," which they might do.
I mean, here's the thing. I do think that the acting with Master Soul's character in this, or after he stuns her and whatnot, and some of his dialogue is a bit creepy and whatnot. And it's like, oh, I will let you go. Believe me. But you and I are gonna have a talk. And it's like, either Mr. Soul has, or Master Soul has gone off the deep end because he lost all of his strike team, because he turns off his transponder and busts out of there at light speed just as the other team comes in. And I'm thinking to myself, this dude's going to die real quick. But I'm thinking to myself, I do kind of think he knew exactly who she was, sensed it too. But
for sure.
a lot of people are like, why isn't he picking up on her or on who it is? It's like, he has nothing to fear of this girl right now.
Right.
She is so weak because she is not really she's not really that strong in the Force. I mean, she is strong, sure. She has some strength in the Force. She can use the knives and call the knives to her hand and whatnot. But it's like he is
That's very
a lot stronger.
rudimentary. That's
Yeah.
very rudimentary.
She has rudimentary
compared
training
to...
where he is a Jedi Master.
And we've just seen him in previous episode go up against 8 fully trained Jedis.
Yeah.
Jedi. Not Jedis, but
yeah, Jedi. Jedi is Jedi in plural.
Jedi plural. Yeah, it's like sheep.
Yeah.
Sheep is sheep. Yeah. So if we've already seen the extent of his strength, he's not even at all worried about her putting up a fight against him.
Yeah.
Like, he could probably like choke strangle her in like 2 seconds, and like, you know,
the
what I mean?
second she attacked, or
He would sense it before.
He would just go catch it and defend. However,
right,
that's just how most people are. They're expecting it. They'll sense it. It's like, okay, yeah, she's coming up with me on a knife. Hey, Osha, take the wheel. I need to go fix the thing. I'm not going to give you that opportunity to stab me with your fucking knife. He knows. And so, yeah, a lot of people are nitpicking. It's like, oh, he didn't know. It's like, did you watch the episode? I mean, yeah, it may not be the best writing, but even a blind person could see he was setting her up. He's not blind. Yes, he has that grief. Yes, he's experiencing grief for the first time, losing a lot of his friends and fellow Jedi. I mean, you see him as he bangs the table and whatnot. And this is him coming to grips with what the hell's going on. It's a little bit of new experiences for a Jedi. So, yeah, when it comes to that, I had no problem with it. The writing, again, yes, there was some writing problems here. But getting back to our topics, the Lightwhip. And so what was your take on the Lightwhip?
I mean, I'm always intrigued to see how do I put this? Because sometimes I'm not. I do like new things that I haven't been introduced to, and you know what the Lightwhip's supposed to do. So like, kind of like the Cortosis, I was like, what? And then I had to do some searching, and then I found, some friends who are like EU people who were like, no, this is a real thing. So I do like when things are new. However, I don't know if you ever saw Star Wars Rebels, where you saw like the Inquisitors or whatever, those like Dark Force users use their freaking lightsabers as a helicopter.
That's bullshit,
hated
folks.
that so much. I hated that with a passion. I was like, this is some bullshit. And that was new, but I was completely against it. So I'm okay with new things.
Mary Poppins Inquisitors don't fucking work in Star Wars. Especially when those blades weigh nothing.
I was like, so my ex introduced me to that show. He's like, watch it, it's good. And I was like, no, this is gonna be trash. Like, I don't want to watch it. So we watched it, and like immediately I was like, I don't like their lightsabers. I don't like this. This doesn't make sense. This contradicts lore. And he was like, oh wow, okay. But anyway, we watched the whole thing, and I was like, oh, this is how they introduced Thrawn? Really? Oh my god. Like, I hated that show so much. But the one thing that like would tick me off more than anything, I went off on a rant about this. I was like, it's a lightsaber. It's light. Like, it's just a laser. How does lasers make a helicopter? So
I'll explain this after she's done.
I'm okay with light whips as long as it's cool and it makes sense. Yes.
Well, here's the thing, folks. Her Lightwhip, or apparently this Vernestra character's lightsaber, can function as both lightsaber and whip, or light whip. which is a problem. Because when you have a Lightwhip, like Gathani in the Bane series, she was a Sith who had a Lightwhip, which was exactly kind of like Vernestra's whip form of her lightsaber with energy. The only problem is when you have a Lightwhip, it is not going to function like a lightsaber by cutting things in half, by slicing things up. It won't work that way. It will burn, yes. It will hurt if you get wrapped up in it, yes. However, it does not have the cutting power of a lightsaber. And there is a reason behind this. The mechanics of a Lightwhip. Everybody knows that in a lightsaber, there is a thing called an emitter. Well, there's the magnetic stabilizing ring as well. When you have a magnetic stabilizing ring, that keeps the blade length at its set point. Any longer, the blade loses power. The blade loses strength. And I've also explained, because Raya Kitty does disagree with me on this, but you know what? That's all right. When it comes to the lightsabers, once they touch something, that is when heat comes out of them. That is when the heat is released and whatnot. When it comes to the lightsabers and this Lightwhip, you need multiple emitters, meaning stacked emitter matrices, in order to produce a flimsy blade. It gets rid of the stiffness of the blade, but the pliancy of the blade, and allows it to be it makes the blade more pliable, meaning you can use it as a whip. However, again, because of the pliancy of the blade, you are making it weaker. And Gathani's Gathani's Lightwhip is a pure energy blade. It will kill a person and whatnot.
I would have just liked to see it, like, wrap around a lightsaber and then, like, her rip the lightsaber from someone's hand. You know what I mean? Like, do something like, and then, like, wrap around someone's foot.
Godzilla Kong, yeah.
Right, exactly. Like, do something cool with it. I don't know. Like,
I mean, our introduction to her Lightwhip. Whip, kill a bug.
Yeah, like, no, come on. That's like if our introduction to lightsabers was somebody like slicing bread. Like, you know what I mean? No.
Yeah. Now, he's saying some stuff here. Now, I think the helicopter blades do work looking at the science of kyber crystals, so I suppose we're the exact opposite on this. And that's okay. So I want to ask something, not counting EU stuff. Has a Jedi ever used a double-bladed lightsaber? It is discouraged. It is discouraged, however they do.
It's discouraged because it's more... Okay,
it's a more aggressive... It's a weapon. It's more of an aggressive weapon. That is a whip, because no Jedi would use a Lightwhip. Because, again, as Yoda said in Empire Strikes Back, a Jedi uses the Force for knowledge and defense, never attack. And also an elegant weapon for a more civilized age. A whip, in its very nature, is a barbaric weapon. And that is how I think Qimir may have gotten those scars. I believe that if Qimir said he was a Jedi long ago, maybe he was turning away from the Jedi, got into a fight with his master, who could have been Vernestra, and she whipped him with her Lightwhip.
That'd be a cool
It is discouraged. Sith used double-bladed lightsabers more. Yes, it's because it goes along with Juyo, the lightsaber form 7. But yeah, the Lightwhip needs multiple emitters to make the blade more, or multiple emitter matrices and stabilizers to make the blade more pliant. And that is the mechanics. However, due to that, the blade stays pliant. It cannot switch between lightsaber and Lightwhip. It just doesn't work that way, folks. It just doesn't work that way.
Because science.
So that is why Vernestra's lightsaber is a screw up. You were saying something?
Oh, I was just saying, because science, like it would be an OP thing for it to be like, oh, it's a whip when she wants it to be, and then it's a blade when she wants it. Like
Yeah.
that's just too OP in my opinion. Like you
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to do that without people being like, all right, come on,
Yeah. And you know what? That's the thing. She
And that
is
wouldn't be
using, or she
nitpicky.
has a
Like,
weapon. Yeah, that isn't nitpicky. You're right. Like Mitsuri's blade is, from Demon Slayer. Mitsuri's blade is weaker than a regular blade, but she makes up for it with the sheer force she applies in her movements when she is fighting. It's kind of cool, even if it looks silly. Yeah, I saw those episodes and I thought it's like, damn, this chick has a whip sword. That's insane, but cool at the same time. So yes, when it comes to the Lightwhip and its EU counterpart from Gathani's Lightwhip, also there is also the Lightwhips that were in Zygeria, the Zygerian slavers from the Clone War show, and then there's also Lumia's Lightwhip, which was a lot different. She had a pliant blade. She had a very pliant blade that was all energy, but she also had multiple different tendrils, charged tendrils, Cortosis tendrils, or one of them was a Cortosis, or a couple. No, wait, she didn't have a Cortosis tendril. She did have Beskar tendrils, though. She did have Beskar tendril whip, or tendrils on her whip, but she also had other tendrils like Frick alloy, which is also lightsaber resistant to a degree. And the best way to get around a light whip, have two lightsabers or a Shoto blade, which Qimir has. I'm willing to bet it fits that he has that hidden lightsaber in his hilt, that shorter lightsaber blade. He's looking forward to a fight with Vernestra. So I'm thinking,
reason.
and he's going to use his Shoto in order to kill her. And that's how I think that that's going to go, because it's like, I think that there is a history between Vernestra, because you could sense in the dialogue something to tip the scales, somebody who, or while that other Jedi has fallen, some people think that the Jedi was using psychometry, which is touching things to read of the Force to see what was going on. No Jedi was using psychometry. She was saying, what do you see? Well, I see this, I see this. It's like, he ain't using the Force. He's judging by what he sees through his own eyes. It's like, she's using the Force and she's able to hear the whispers and the echoes out of it all. She's more in tune than that Padawan-looking guy that was rather effeminate. Not to mention, why does she have stomach or tummy problems while going through hyperspace? I find it unsettling. It's like,
I find this whole show unsettling.
Same here. But I don't see, and folks, I can defend it to a degree as well as hate on it, because one, I don't see it as Star Wars. I do not acknowledge this as Star Wars. I am divorced of Star Wars when it comes to this, because this isn't Star Wars. I'm not watching Star Wars. I'm watching an interpretation of Star Wars. And a lot of people are.
It's like fanfic. It's like
you brought
someone's
up
fanfic.
what about Ezra lightsaber, the gun thing that is considered OP? He can only use that lightsaber or the gun part of it if he deactivates the blade. Yeah. His stun blaster can only be used to act, or can only be used when the blade is deactivated. So yeah, I don't see that as a problem. It's a very it's a very innovative invention. However, it's also very unlike any Jedi to do something like that. Obi-Wan Kenobi would definitely hate that sort of thing.
Yeah, but that was the point. I think that was the point of that, is because it copied this little like blaster thing dealio that he had made on his wrist. So I think the point of the new or non-Star Wars, as you might call it, or I call it like the Disney Star Wars era, or like the I don't know, retcon Star Wars, whatever you want to call it, is they want to undermine what it means to be a Jedi, and then kind of like, well, you can't keep being a Jedi. No, you can keep being a Jedi because Jedi have very strict rules. And if you want to be a Force user, if you want to like introduce, okay, we have a different interpretation of how to use the Force, and we're going to do this and blah blah blah, and still try to be heroes. That's one thing, but don't say that you're Jedi and then completely undermine what it means to be a Jedi and do things that Jedi wouldn't do and call
Yeah.
it being a Jedi.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's the main thing I have an issue with. And if you call that nitpicking, Orange, like I'll fight you on that. I don't think that's nitpicking, but
No, that's not. You're right.
it's not a Jedi to do things that don't strictly align with like the Jedi code, you know?
Yeah. Didn't
And
Obi-Wan
Yoda would
use a
bitch
blaster
slap
to
the
kill
shit
Grievous one
out of
time?
like Ezra
Yeah.
and his mentor, I forget his name, voiced by
Kanan
Freddie Prinze
Jarrus.
Jr. Yeah, him. Yoda would bitch slap the shit out of him.
To answer this question, what did he say right after he killed him? Axel, what did he say right after he killed Grievous? So uncivilized. If you read the novel to episode 3, you understand that when Obi-Wan Kenobi calls something uncivilized, it is in fact his greatest insult to something. That is his best
Obi-Wan
insult.
is so British. Yeah, like Obi-Wan is like the
So
most British.
uncivilized.
Like, and the way he throws it away as if like disgusted with it,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Also,
Maybe I read into
help.
that. That might be me. I don't know.
No. You're right. Also, it doesn't help. It appears the actors didn't really get proper direction. No, there is direction problem in the show. I can tell they're really trying, but most actors can't do well without a director doing their job. You're right.
Correct.
Right. They're
And
definitely
there's
trying to
not
make the Sith the good guys and the Jedi evil. Here's the thing. Okay.
They don't have a good director and they don't have a solid script. So
a lot of people.
They have two bad things working against them as actors.
Yeah. A lot of people have been given this show hit. And here's the thing. I hate that I have to point this out because it is an inadvertent defense of the show. The show is from a Sith perspective. The Jedi are not good guys here. From the Sith, the Jedi are evil. As Anakin said, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. The Jedi are not perfect, but they're definitely not evil. However, the Sith see them as evil. The Sith do not like the Jedi. What was that IGN article you had? Did you send it to the private chat here?
I sent it to you via X.
All right, well, I'll check that out.
But the headline, I'll read it. Jedi don't own the Force. The Acolyte is changing everything we know about quote unquote the good guys. Why can't the Force sensitive use their powers as they choose?
All right, let me read it. I got it here.
You got it. You got it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So streaming wars is that's a stupid thing. The Acolyte has been divisive to say the least, from preemptive review bombing, which is not what's been going on, from folks mad that there dare be a black woman leading a Star War. That also wasn't a nitpick, or that also wasn't a thing either. So yeah.
That's not what we're upset about. We're not
that's
upset
not
about
what
that.
we're upset about. No, we had no problem with a black woman being in Star Wars. I mean, fuck, black people have been in Star Wars since Episode 4.
You know, if they made a whole Mace Windu like pre-Empire thing, and they brought Samuel L. Jackson back, I would watch the crap out of that.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, but he's also older now than he was in the movie, so
sure. But they, they do their DH stuff.
If they have the budget for it. They didn't do that in Kenobi. But anyway.
But you know what I mean? If like let's say back in the day, let's say in 2006, they were like, hey, we're gonna make a Mace Windu movie. Would the fans not have loved that?
Oh, definitely. They would have, yeah, they would have clamored for it. But getting into this, to some legitimate struggles with exposition, all the way to the glee that some seeing the series finally exploring the High Republic, where all the Jedi smoke cannabis. There has been very little in terms of middle ground and opinions of creator Leslie Headland's take on the era. On a personal level, I find the exposition necessary for an era that new fans haven't explored before. Plagueis. Just saying. Plagueis novel. As much as I consider that novel 30% illegitimate, I still see 70% of it as legitimate. So, yeah. Continuing. I find the exposition necessary and explored before. Have enjoyed Amanda Stenberg's performance as Osha and May, and think many. I don't know how to say that name. And Li Yongjae. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. It's from a Sith perspective. However, I doubt it will be dropped there. I'm skeptical to say the least. Can't trust Lucasfilm on that. They already. Oh, yes, because morally gray characters don't exist anymore. Yeah, exactly. It's like, Jesus Christ, people. But anyway, moving on. To the nuanced, or yes, giving us new and nuanced takes on the dark side, or dark and light sides of the Force, but also want to know why Jedi Master Vernestra Rwo's green makeup looks so patchy. Because budget and shit hires. Shitty hiring practices by Disney, which have also been proven to be racist thanks to James O'Keefe. So that is to say, by and large, the Acolyte has been a success in my eye. The person I'm reading an article here, folks. I'm reading an article. I am not saying that the show is a success at all. In their eyes, and even if I do wonder if Vernestra actress Rebecca Henderson did something to upset the makeup department, because Daphne Keen's Jackie looks just fine. But while playing a new era has been elevated by some very solid performances across the board, it is the series' exploration of the Jedi's authoritarian nature that I find most interesting. In media, there were few things better than the scrappy, screw-up character. Is their life together? No. Do they make the right decisions? Rarely. Are they trying? So hard. Or, in Han Solo's case, sometimes. Don't go there at all. To justify their crappy behavior and all of the self-righteous glory by insisting that they were doing it for the greater good, or that it was fine because their motives were pure. And the Jedi have fallen into this category more often than not in Star Wars history. I mean, that's just your opinion. Only the Sith deal in absolutes. A certain Jedi once said, oh, you can't even mention Kenobi's name, can you? But the statement is in itself an absolute. All right, good psychological counter there. I will give you that.
We've been joking about that for years. I've been joking about that for years.
It's become a meme at this point.
Yeah, it's like we know. Haha.
Some of our greatest heroes have screwed up, and some have proceeded to throw themselves into exile. You ever hear of a hero's journey? Leaving the rest of the galaxy to clean up the mess, or their mess. I love Obi-Wan and Luke too. Calm down. Do you? Kind of throwing them under the bus here. I mean,
yeah, she's basically saying. She's basically saying, "Oh my God, Obi-Wan is a Sith," and you know,
yeah,
I mean, they're basically saying, you know, they're doing the same thing that they did with Luke and Han in the first and the sequel trilogy, where they turned your heroes into not the heroes, or sort of villains, or the people you blame when shit goes down because they just stood by the side and were lame.
Hey, check this out. And that's without considering the autocratic beliefs, who gets to use the Force and who doesn't, or the little fact that they manipulate and take children from their families, never to be seen again. You fell into the trap, didn't you? You poor soul. Usually when a Jedi goes to a family and considers the child for force or tests the child's force sensitivity and whatnot, and they take him at a young age, it is usually with the family's blessing.
Right. Like there was in episode 1, there was tears and sadness for like, you know, Anakin leaving his mom. And
that's because he had an attachment.
He did have an attachment. But she gave the Jedi the blessing because she knew that he would have a better life with them than as a slave.
Yeah. I'm not going to read anymore. This person literally has very little concept of Star Wars. I just
thought it was funny. Like
hurtful.
It's and I told Orange
the Jedi don't own the Force. Of course they don't, you dimwit.
And Orange and I were talking about this before the stream. No one said that the Jedi owned the Force. Everyone understands that the Jedi way is a way to harness the Force. That for Force-sensitive users can go one of two ways. You know, they can go the way of the Jedi, or they can go the dark side, or they can, you know, grow out of it. Do they grow out of it if they don't go? Like, let's say, no, they don't.
Wait, what was your question?
So let's say Force-sensitive children. Let's say the kid doesn't want to go, and the parents don't give the blessing, so the Jedi don't take that Force-sensitive kid.
The Jedi won't take the kid.
Right. Then the kid grows up. Does the kid grow out of the Force sensitivity?
No.
Or they just become seers, or...
No, the kid learns, or the kid will not have training. The kid will be able to use the Force, wield the Force on an instinctive level, but they will, and their emotions will also, they'll be guided more by their emotions.
So we could see people like, who was that character in Rogue One who's like, I am one with the Force is one with me.
Oh yeah, that Donnie Yen's character.
Yeah. He's not a Jedi.
No.
But he's obviously
a minor
learned...
Force sensitive that is a guardian of the wills.
Right, but he obviously like learned some sort of like Tai Chi or something to help him. Like...
he's a martial artist. Oh, look, martial arts in Star Wars, folks. Yes, it does exist.
But you know what I mean? Some of the martial arts would have parallel training to Jedi training.
Yeah,
as far as like control of self, discipline. Right, exactly.
But that's we got, or moving on to a different thing. People are saying that there's going to be a romance between Osha and Qimir. I have yet to see that. Because as I said, he's not seducing her to fuck her. He's not seducing her to fuck her. He's seducing her to turn her to the dark side. He's seducing her to the dark side. There's no freaking romance here, folks. But I do want to get into this topic. Leslie Headland defends the Acolyte, says she is not desecrating George Lucas's legacy. So let me share this. You know the rules. Kate, please let me know if my audio or if I go out. Yeah. Share screen, not the audio. And share there.
Oh, I thought you froze for a sec. I was like, you haven't even done the thing yet.
No. But yeah. The Acolyte's showrunner, Headland, defends the series' portrayal of the Jedi, says it may feel like I'm criticizing the Jedi as they exist in George Lucas's oeuvre universe, but that's not the case. So let's see what she has to say here, shall we? This is by Spencer Piccoli. Shout out to you, Spence, at Bounding in the Comics. According to the Acolyte showrunner Leslie Headland, the series' less than shining portrayal of the Jedi Order is not aiming to criticize George Lucas's original take on the collective group of light side adherents, but rather to get audiences to look at their existence from a different point of view. Well, not seeing a problem here. Headland offers this defense of the morally gray narrative while speaking to Collider's Maggie Lovett following the premiere of its 6th episode, Teach/Corrupt. In the light of the episode's heavy focus on Qimir's anti-Jedi philosophies, the Jedi teach there's one way, or only one way, to use the Force, and if you don't do it their way, it fades. A flawed perspective and bad writing. The Sith at one point tells Osha, but there is another way. Below the surface of consciousness are powerful emotions: anger, fear, lost, desire. Lovett pressed the showrunner on how much fun it has been to get to pick apart these ideas and that have been baked into the franchise for so long, and then flip the narrative a little bit to make people look at things from a different point of view. Well, here's the thing. She's not really doing that. She is giving it from the Sith point of view, except here's the problem, folks. We already know it from the Sith point of view. Because it's all throughout the fucking EU.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it's making people think or look at it from a different point of view. I can understand that fans, especially people who don't know the High Republic, may feel like I'm criticizing the Jedi as they exist in George Lucas's oeuvre, meaning the prequels and episode 5 through 6. 4 through 6. Spencer! Jesus. But that's not the case. We're so much further back from that. We're in that era that Obi-Wan is talking about in A New Hope. We're in that period where the proliferation of power is so huge and far-reaching. Actually, in the next episode, you're going to see how far-flung particular missions with Jedi are and the lack of oversight. Oh, so you're basically going to show how the overreach. Okay. Expanding on her take of the Jedi, Headland continued, comparing these Jedi to the Jedi in the prequels is a little difficult because it's 100 years-ish before those films. It's a century. You see Vernestra like, we cannot let this happen. She gets more and more concerned about that at the end of the season, and rightfully so, because as a very powerful Jedi Master, can sort of see what's on the horizon, whereas when we meet the Jedi in the prequels, they're completely enmeshed at that point. So she's basically showing that the Jedi, or she's showing the journey of the Jedi complacency, or is what she is saying. Returning to Lovett's original question, Headland then asserted, one of the interesting ways to unpack the Jedi is when they are at their height as they are here, what are the things they're doing differently? A Jedi doesn't pull their weapon unless prepared to kill. That's just a High Republic concept. And a flawed one at that. Because even before the High Republic, like thousands of years, the Jedi would use their lightsabers, pull their lightsabers, merely to get the attention of everybody else in order to moderate.
Right. Or even, like, going back to episode 1, they pulled their lightsabers to melt a door to get through.
Yeah. They don't have battle droids. They don't have other people with lightsabers. There isn't any reason to pull it. Comparing that to anybody in the prequels, it's not the same. They're just not the same Jedi. But apparently they are now that you have fucking Ki-Adi-Mundi in it. Ugh. Drawing on her thoughts of a topic to a close, she ultimately affirmed, so in my opinion and in my experience, what experience? And what I was interested in digging into is, it seems like there's a time when you can break down the Jedi as a concept, whereas I wouldn't want to touch that or has been established of them a century later. Oh, my dear Lord, Leslie, you are so flawed here.
I can't believe they didn't have, like, a Star Wars nerd in the writer's room to be like, no.
They have somebody who is, or looks, or I don't think they have a Star Wars nerd. I do, however, believe they have somebody who looks into the legend stuff just to cherry pick.
Just to be like, look, we did something.
Yeah. And next episode is currently scheduled to hit Disney Plus July 9th. There is so much wrong here, folks. There is just so much wrong here. So, what are your thoughts on that?
It's abundantly clear that Star Wars, and I'm using air quotes here, is being written by people who don't care about Star Wars, don't like Star Wars, and are trying to shoehorn their own thing into Star Wars, and then it's basically a TV show cosplaying a Star Wars, but it's not Star Wars.
Yeah.
And it's pretty evident, like comparing Lord of the Rings, the changes that Peter Jackson made in the movies, no fan is upset about the changes made because the changes that were made stayed true to the spirit, maybe not the letter, but the spirit of the books, right? The changes that are
Yeah.
made in Star Wars are meant to upset Star Wars fans purposefully, and they've said that repeatedly to our faces.
Yeah.
Hey, we're trying to, like, undermine your expectations. So it's just
2 episodes left, Axel. Sorry.
Yeah, 2 episodes.
There's 2 episodes left.
And I have a feeling they're gonna try to do like another. Oh, here we have a twist, at the end. It's not. It's not enjoyable. I will say Orange was right though. Not to dog on the actors, and we said the same thing about Moses. What was her name from Kenobi?
Ingram.
Yes, Moses Ingram. She's a great actress. She did a great job with what was given to her as far as acting goes.
Yeah.
My issue was not with her. My issue is
No.
not with the acting in this series. My issue is with the writing. My issue is with the blatant disregard for Star Wars fans and Star Wars lore, and it's just cheap. It looks cheap. It's not a good show.
Why do TV shows these days only get 8 episodes? It's because they can't afford to do 13.
Budget, yeah.
Budget, but also they're on a more they're doing a more shall we say cautious way of doing it, because
Also,
by
there's a
doing it
lot
more
of
cautiously,
changes. Yeah, cautious, and there was a lot of changes from the writers / actor strike. So they can't afford to pay
Screw
to
up.
have. Yeah, and
Except
with
that they
things
royally
costing
did.
so much, things are either like, at least for movies, things cost so much. Like everything has to be a blockbuster.
Yep.
It
Captain
used to be
America
like
4 just recently ballooned their budget to $375 million. They need to make $1 billion just to break even.
That's all the reshoots. They keep
Yeah.
reshooting that movie. They've reshot that movie like 7 times.
Yeah, I know. They've destroyed their budget. Normal or back in like the early or the 2000s, folks, if you went over budget, your production was shut down until you got more money to put into it.
Right.
And you also had a cap, meaning you can't go above a certain budget.
This amount. Yeah, this amount.
If you
Here's
do,
your
you
window.
put your own money forth. They don't do that anymore. But yeah,
No, but then they try to. It's not sustainable because
it really isn't.
Disney has lost, between Marvel, Star Wars, and all their other Disney movies that have come out. They lost what, like $1.5 billion in 2023, and I don't think that they've made a profit in any single one of their movies that they've released in 2024. So I don't understand how you can keep that going in the long run. Are their parks the only thing that's making them money? Like, I don't
They're
understand how
barely
they're.
making money. They're in
I
debt.
don't I don't understand this business model. So they're gonna have a come to Jesus moment, so to speak, where they go, okay, the fans don't like this. Let's go back to what works. And what works is just good storytelling and putting creative people in charge and letting them do their thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened with the Disney Renaissance in the early 90s. They just put really creative people in charge and they let them do their thing. And
Yep.
and people are still talking about the Disney Renaissance. People are still listening to those songs. People still are watching those movies.
And we got
And
another
Disney's
one
still
here.
trying to make bank off of making remakes of them because they're like, oh, people like that. Nostalgia
Yep.
bait.
And we got another defense from Leslie Headland coming at the Qimir bathing scene. So, same rules. Let's see what they have to say. From a narrative perspective, it had to happen. It had to. All right, let's see what she had to say. One of the opening set pieces of the Star Wars 6 episode was the yada yada yada. Let's get to where she has to say. Following a couple solid minutes of Qimir disrobe, slinking into a hot spring and beginning to wash himself, Osha approaches, grabs a lightsaber, and strikes him down with his own lightsaber. However, much of the surprise, villain, yada yada. Jesus fucking Christ, get to the goddamn where has Headland's talking about it. Stop with the nitpicking about nudity. So, let's see here. All are pressed during a post episode 6. Maggie Lovett asks how far she was allowed to push things with how much skin was shown. And Headland explained, Lucasfilm really believed in my vision from a narrative perspective. It had to happen. It had to. He did like a Steven Seagal neck snap in the previous episode. Wow. Given that the Steven Seagal, are we? How do you at all get from that to humanity? The only way to do that is to show him in such a wildly vulnerable position. You know, that in some way does make sense. The vulnerable part, show him vulnerable. And it has to be visual. I can't think of something more vulnerable than someone holding a lightsaber on someone who's that exposed. I just don't. The fact that she's holding a lightsaber on him at all is vulnerability. I felt like he was so merciless in the previous episode that he had to stand in front of her and say, "You absolutely can kill me. Essentially, I'm at your mercy." I couldn't feel like, I couldn't feel like a put on. It had to feel like he genuinely was like, "Totally, you can do this. There's nobody around. No one's going to judge you for it. So what's up?" And again, it feeds in the narrative. Her decisions of still upholding this. He says, "You're wondering if it's honorable to kill me like this. You're still hanging on to the rules. You're still hanging on to this code. Listen, part of it is just decency. And she's a good person. But I think she's also starting to, or he's also starting to teach her. He's also starting to go, I deserve this." Oh, bullshit. That's not, no. If that was what you had in mind, you're an idiot, Leslie. The dynamics had to be what they are after what he did in episode 5. He cannot seem like an alpha male intimidating while we see he's capable from episode 5, but that cannot be his dynamic with her. It wouldn't make sense. If you follow the dynamic of the Sith Inquisitor class in Star Wars The Old Republic game, folks, it's very much the same seduction method, or even it's also the same seduction method as in or you could follow that same seduction method in the Sith Juggernaut stage of that game when you're training or when you're seducing Jason Wilson, showing the dichotomy. We have to see the other side of him, which we have to be specifically the way he is with her. She concluded, "We never met or let May see his face, and he let her see him naked. You know what I mean? The character design was very, very intentional." Interesting dichotomy. As an aside, it should be noted that the absolute thirst over the Acolyte Manny Jacinto is nothing if not hypocritical. After all, images of showrunner trying to use this same logic for a sexy female character, or even trying to make such a character, the outrage and think pieces would be endless. That is very true, folks. Now that I will acknowledge. Manscape, or the whole male nudity thing that's been going on since Thor Dumb and Dumber, and this with a little bit of skin but not a lot. Yeah, the male gaze, I will fully
I
give
also
that.
think that they're trying to make up for, they're like, hey, sorry ladies that you have 3 times as much nudity as men on average on TV, and 6 times as much on average if you're on Game of Thrones than men.
Well, I heard there was a dick or an erect dick shot in latest House of the Dragon.
No, it was flaccid.
Oh, well, alrighty. Well, then
There
whatever.
was a BJ shot, but it was obviously a prosthetic.
Right.
Like,
I
no,
mean,
it was
here's the thing,
pretty
folks.
evident it was prosthetic.
There's movies like Wild Things with Nev Campbell and not Matt Damon, but Damon something or whatever, but also Kevin Bacon. Bacon freaking let his little helper out in one scene in the shower.
Well,
You have fucking Tom Cruise in what was that show back or movie back in the 80s? You have freaking
yeah.
I mean, there's other shows. It's like,
but
there's other
again,
movies where,
it's few and far between, and it's 3-to-1 women nudity versus male nudity. So I think to answer your question of like what's with the male nudity recently, is they think that the best response to sorry ladies for all the nudity for you is male nudity.
yeah,
I think that's what they
shove
think
it back in their faces.
Right. It's the
Give them nothing
opposite.
but dicks. It's like, oh, so
Um
you're gonna just be showing a bunch of guys or with their dicks hanging out. Okay, you're about to lose your main entertainment audience.
Right, because the main entertainment audience for, let's say, House of the Dragon showing male, nudity, you
Yeah.
mostly have a male audience. And I don't speak for all women, but women's brains don't work the way that men's brains do when they see objects that they like on other people.
Yeah.
I'll just say that. So it doesn't have the same effect as seeing like boobs on screen. It just doesn't. Um, so it just doesn't do anything. Like it's just pointless. Like you know what I mean? It's just like I don't know.
Inflated budget mostly due to nature of streaming services needs to have more new things, and of course shows are given less episodes to make room for these and other things. Yep. And you're waiting for the male gaze hypocrisy in this article. Yeah, well, let's see where it goes. And just to be clear, the issue is not with individuals enjoying Qimira's attractiveness. Rather, the issue is with the thirsty, glaring hypocrisy.
Oh, one more thing on the male gaze in response
Yeah.
to the House of the Dragon episode. That guy was skinny as a twig, and everybody was making fun of that character the episode before because when he was curled up in a ball, he kind of looked like Voldemort who had died.
Oh God.
Like the piece of like that was like just the memes of that. That was or X or whatever. Those were the memes. It was like that little piece of Voldemort that had died that was like at King's Crossing when Harry died. Spoiler alert, sorry guys. So when you see him naked, like full frontal this past week or last weekend, it's not something that's like, oh my goodness. Like I would rather see Thor in Thor Love and Dumber or Dumb and Dumber as you
Dumb and
called it.
Dumber, yeah.
He has much more to show than what Egg or Amond was able to show.
Well, here's another thing. When it comes to women and nudity and male nudity and whatnot, Did you ever think that there might be people out there who are gay? What about the gay gays? What about the gay gays?
Have we lost sight of the gays again? Did we forget about the
some
gays?
women like seeing other women naked. Some men like to see other men naked. I'm not one of those men. I don't want to see a bunch of dicks. You know that show?
Whoa, methinks thou doth protest too much. I'm just kidding.
Have you ever seen the show Altered Carbon on
Yes.
Netflix?
Where they fight? Where they fight naked? Oh,
yeah. There was the naked fight.
The only thing I could think during that entire scene, though, was, "Oh my God, glass! Oh my God, glass!" And she doesn't have that was.
But there's also
that wasn't sexual or anything.
But there's also that rich dude.
Yeah.
That was from the first season. He comes out dick flapping everywhere.
Yeah, sure.
It's like he just comes out abashedly naked.
If you've seen Shame with Michael Fassbender, he just walks around the corner like full frontal, and you just see like nothing left to the imagination. Absolutely nothing.
Fucking remember Too Much Blue from Watchmen?
Yes.
I mean, that dude walked around naked everywhere.
And he was giant.
And yes, you also had that giant one with the giant dick. You also had you ever seen the movie Horns with Daniel Radcliffe? This dude's like, I always wanted to show my dick in public. Whips it down and just starts wiggling. I'm like, I didn't want to see that.
It's like an unsolicited dick pic. Now you know how we feel. You're welcome. Welcome to our world.
Oh, so
whoa, where did that come from?
Healing, huh? How would you do it, Kate?
The gay people don't count. Only straight people are this violent degenerate. Riot coming up with the jokes.
Riot be a riot.
Riot is definitely a riot for sure.
In that one,
good job. That was a good one, but that was a good one.
I mean, so many of the women viewers don't want to have to keep seeing women naked, and I get that. I completely get it. I mean,
as a straight woman, folks, I don't care. As a straight, I don't speak for all straight women, but as a straight woman, I don't care that much about seeing female nudity.
I mean,
unless it's
kid,
unless it's here's the only I'm not a like a prude or anything like that. Just don't have over the top. Like if it's over the top, then it's unnecessary.
Under boob,
right?
Go that route. A little bit of ass.
If it adds to the story, or if it's like, oh, this is part of what the scene would look like. Now, I have tried to watch Rome because I've heard it's a great show. I got through the first maybe 15 minutes of it. I had to ask myself how they weren't actually having sex. That's how it was. That's how grotesque. Not grotesque, but that's how intimate the scenes are.
They had porn actresses in Game of Thrones for some of the heavier sex scenes.
Oh, and that's
the
not
rape
as bad as Rome.
Or the rape scene at that dude's home. A lot of those women are adult film stars.
Again, Game of Thrones is nothing in comparison to Rome.
Well, yeah, there was also the orgies of Rome. Yeah,
I'm just saying that that TV show is beyond.
Yeah.
Beyond Game of Thrones. But and I'm a fan of Game of Thrones. I'm a fan of it. And even I think, God, enough. Is this necessary? If you have to ask if it's necessary, it's probably not necessary.
No, it's gratuitous. Yeah.
So
I mean, there's that scene in Game of Thrones where one of that dude or one of that slithery little fucker that killed that betrayed Sean Bean. He literally wipes her. Yeah, Littlefinger. He literally wipes that woman's cheek off because she had a little bit of a guy juice on there.
Yeah, and then sends her off to somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, most of the time it's women asking, "Is this necessary?" Not men. So I don't ever think that men have a problem with seeing female nudity in TV shows.
Well, the thing is, I do nowadays because I do kind of feel it has been gratuitous. I mean, back when I was a kid and back when I was a teenager and whatnot, it's like, fuck yeah, let's see more of that shit, yeah. But now I'm an adult and it's like, honestly, it just doesn't fucking do anything for me anymore. It's
Okay,
fucking
so
gratuitous. It's
you've
ridiculous. It's
matured.
stupid.
Okay, so you've
Yeah.
matured, but like majority of the population of guys are probably like, oh, I don't mind the boobs. It's
It's stupid.
for me the quality of, well, at least in Game of Thrones, the quality of the writing was on par for me to put up with the gratuitous nudity and the gratuitous rapiness of it, because the writing was good for the first 4 or 5-ish seasons. House of the Dragon, so far so good with writing. They only criticism I would have is they might write themselves into a corner, going into season 3 and 4, just with the way that things are going. Hopefully they don't. Hopefully they can be smart enough to avoid that. But Acolyte has not been so fortunate because the characters can only act as smart as the writers, and the writers for Acolyte just don't seem that intelligent.
Yeah. So out of this episode, how would you rate it?
I'm trying to be as objective as possible. And again, my bias is that I didn't want to watch the show. It's not Star Wars, and I don't like it. With that bias in mind, 6.5.
Passed by the skin of teeth.
Yeah, it's watchable.
Yeah.
It's not. There's parts that are enjoyable. There's scenes that are kind of cool. But overall, take it or leave it. I would leave it. But
as for me, I'd put it at a 7 out of 10. Objectively speaking. Subjectively speaking, I don't see it as Star Wars, so it drops down to a 5 out of 10. It's better, or it's exposition scene or exposition episodes or filler episodes can sometimes help. This isn't exactly a filler episode; it's an exposition episode,
which
and
is
yes,
not
you even
always
get
filler. I will stand up for exposition. I'm going to stand
Yeah.
up for exposition as someone who appreciates good writing. Sometimes, if done correctly, exposition can lay the groundwork that's necessary for the emotional bits.
Yeah, because we also see that Osha is now actually starting to think on what Qimir has said. She even whips out his lightsaber and pins him up against the wall, and she sees her own fury and she's afraid of it. But it's like, here's the thing, dude, I wouldn't be tender with her here. It's like, do you feel that right now? You can use that to unlock greater strength. That's what I would have said to her. It's like,
yeah. And,
sorry, I had to sneeze.
No, you're good, Orange, but, I think you should be kinder. A 5? I think this show is moving.
Yeah.
Moving right, my bowels.
I'll give it a 6. I'll give it a 6 subjectively. Fine. But objectively, I put it at a 7. And if that gives me fucking hate, if that gives me fucking hate, you know what? So be it. I'm not here to fucking be your slaves, folks. I'm not here to fucking tell you what you want to hear. I'm telling you what my opinion is. And sometimes I'll even tell you what you need to hear.
My subjective, me not trying to be like objective and give it the benefit of the doubt is a 0, because I don't want to freaking watch this show.
I get it.
I'm 6 episodes into an 8-episode series. Right?
I apologize for ripping your eyes.
No. It's good content. I'm totally fine with doing it for content. This isn't a complaint. But we're 6 episodes into an 8-episode season, and I still don't care about the ending.
Yeah.
I don't care about these characters. I don't care about the writing hasn't given me enough to care.
Yeah.
Even giving this episode a 6.5.
You
I
can
just
do it.
it was we're there at the end. Like it's just they have not given me enough reason to care because stories at the end of the day are about people, and the actors are trying their hardest. They're trying their little hearts out, but the script and the direction isn't giving them enough for me to care about these characters. And I'm sorry. Like I want it to
No, you're
be
not wrong.
good. Like
You're not wrong.
I want Star Wars to be good again. Make Star Wars good again, but it's not working. It's not happening.
Let's see here. Get rid of overlays. No, I want video clips because honestly, it's like this is Kate right now. This is Kate in regards to the Acolyte.
Are you done? Are you done?
1000%.
Yeah.
Like
That's
just
yeah.
can this season be over so we can talk about it? And I'm not, and you know me, and you haven't called me out for being nitpicky. I'm not trying to be nitpicky with this show. It's just not good. It's about, so I don't know if you saw season 4 of True Detective, but it's about the same writing quality, just abysmal. Like I just don't care about these characters. Like I guessed most of what would happen through episode 5 just from watching the trailer. Like it's I don't know, it's like teen writing.
Yeah. I mean,
but hey, if you want to turn off your brain and see something shiny, you'd probably really enjoy the show.
I guess, yeah. And that's gonna wind it down for us tonight, folks. The show has its problems. The show is not Star Wars. I'm not going to be one to nitpick it. I'm not going to be one to make or to overly make fun of it. I'm not going to be saying, "Oh, only fans in Star Wars now." I'm not that kind of person. It's stupid. That you're only giving Disney, when you do that shit, you're only giving Disney the ammunition to legitimize their arguments that the fandom is toxic. Because to be completely objective here and to be completely factual, yes, you are putting toxicity in here. Now, if you want to do the comparatives, like OG Star Wars, she does the comparatives and whatnot, and she does the comparatives between the lores. That's all well and good. But if you are going to be somebody like Geeks and Gamers, no offense to Geeks and Gamers, but you kind of stepped into this and you're a bigger channel and you are also public forum and you are also a public persona. You've been on the fucking news. So, yeah, I'm saying it. You guys fucking when you guys did the whole Star Wars has gone full OnlyFans, I'm not seeing it. I'm sorry, I'm not. And when it comes to sexual stuff in Star Wars, it fucking exists in the EU. If you're gonna that's why I say, if you are a fan of Star Wars, you need to be able to do these comparatives. When it comes to things like fucking Star Wars or lightsaber stabbing and shit and fucking impalements and surviving, down to this shit with the fucking sexual shit and all this other stuff that can have comparatives drawn. Make the comparatives if you know them, if you are aware of them. If not, give it an objective criticism then. I mean, yeah, I know that some of you guys are outrage boner people, but you know what? Have a good night, guys. Thank you for stopping in. Make sure you smash the like on your way out. But if you guys are seriously just going to freaking have a hate boner that you can whack off to while you're doing your freaking streams and just say, oh, it sucks because it's OnlyFans for Star Wars or some other shit, I'm sorry. That's stupid, in my opinion, and also factually, because you are only giving Disney all the freaking ammunition they need to freaking say, see, this is proof that you guys are freaking toxic pieces of shit. And you know what? As fucking twisted as I am, or as fucking twisted as it is, they're not wrong. I hate to fucking agree with Disney. I fucking hate defending Disney. I fucking hate defending a show because, unfortunately, the show has to be defended in some aspect or another, unfortunately, when there's comparatives to be made and the nitpicks are just stupid.
Well, and here's the thing, like, we've been comparing this show, I've been comparing it to the prequels
Yes.
and the OG trilogy. You've been pulling
Yeah.
things from the EU that you know all night. It's okay to use, and this is like the same thing with Doctor Who. People use old Doctor Who to compare to new Doctor Who for us to understand why new Doctor Who isn't good. We're comparing Star Wars to new Star Wars to tell you why it's not good. It's okay to use comparison to say, hey, the EU has this, here's how they did it, it's cool that they introduced it. Or, as you said, they cherry pick from Legends and EU to, I don't know, satiate the fans, I guess.
Yeah, they're trying to basically say, you know what, we do care about you. No, you don't, because if you're saying that you're trying to say that we do care about the EU and stuff that what George Lucas did and what George Lucas approved of, no, you don't, because when you're cherry picking, you're not showing the full context of what you are cherry picking from. There's some stuff in the EU that just can't be put into these shows that is under Disney's lore because it is direct conflict with what Disney has established. Now, folks, I'm not saying that you can't voice your opinions. I'm not saying that you can't have your opinions. I'm not saying that you can't be pissed off about what Disney has done to Star Wars in your opinions and whatnot. However, I'm simply saying give a little bit more objectivity so that they can't counter you, so that they can't make these claims. Do it smarter, not harder. And if you do that, guess what? Disney can't claim I'm a toxic fan when I am looking at this from an objective standpoint.
I mean, they're still going to do that because they did that with Lord of the Rings fans and whatever, what's their show? Rings of Power. So they're still going to say that, but yes, you will actually have a leg to stand on in your argument when you say, hey, I don't like your show because of A, B, and C, and it has nothing to do with the race of the characters. It has nothing to do with, the things that you're accusing me of.
I haven't even mentioned the race of the characters in this show.
Right.
And that's the thing. It's like,
because who cares?
Exactly.
Who cares? What we care about is good storytelling. Yeah, the quality. Exactly. The quality of the story, the quality of the characters, the quality of, just Star Wars in general. Like, I want
yes,
Star
I
Wars
will
to be
fully
good.
admit, I do gotta clarify. A couple of freaking episodes back, I did freaking say it's like, yeah, the only white guy died out of that group. Only the white guy fucking died. But yeah, I will fucking
on the whole
clarify.
Yes, we're not.
I did comment on a little bit of identity politics, but I'm also not saying, but I am also saying that is an objective fact that only the fucking white guy died out of that fucking group,
right?
And only the white woman died out of that fucking group until they ended up and
kind
then
of
they
like
got to the fucking Wookiees. And you killed
kind of
the dog.
like 5 or 6 years ago, only the gay characters died on TV shows. Like, and that was just
I mean, I remember when the fucking LGBTQ group fucking freaked out over Halloween Kills. It's like, I called that in my review. It's like, the LGBTQ group's gonna kind of be really pissed off at this movie. And then a fucking week later, they're all, oh, Michael Myers is homophobic. I wasn't ready for this.
Yeah, I remember that trend on Twitter at the or X or what, I'm sorry.
It's ridiculous.
Sorry for dead naming X, but
yeah, Twitter X. I don't fucking care. But yeah, folks, all I'm saying, say what you want to say. That is your right. However, my opinion of you is going to be lesser if you are doing straw man nitpick arguments. If you're going to do straw man nitpick arguments, come at me if you want. I get it. That's your right as well. But at least I can say in my own certainty that I have been objective, or as objective as I can be. Sure, I do have a subjective opinion. I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm not saying that I'm always right either. But I am saying that if you are going to come at this show, come at it smart. Because if you do that, they don't have a leg to stand on when I have both legs to stand on. Because they're going to say, "Oh, you're just a filthy fucking racist." No, I'm not a filthy fucking racist.
You're trying to be as objective as possible, give them the benefit of the doubt, and do all of that.
Yeah.
In your reviews. And
again,
and that's why I like to give the right, and that's why I like to give that caveat of I'm not as objective as Orange is.
Yeah, she's subjective. She's subjective. I'm objective, or as objective as I can be. Where she's as subjective as she could be. But yeah, folks, that's going to wrap it up. We've been going for hour 46 here. So thank you, Kate, for coming on and being the co-host for this. Tomorrow, folks, Monday Night Rants, we're going to have some people come on. It's going to be a lot more organized and shit from last week. Thank you to everybody, Riot, Axel, NB, and everybody else who has been here. Y'all are freaking awesome. Those who are watching on X, thank you for tuning in. If you like my content, I'm just trying to get to 2,000 subs before 2025. So it's 2025 by 2025. If I can get that, I will definitely plan something out. So thank you to everybody who's been supporting my channel. Thank you to everybody or support those who are also in the chat too, man. They also should get, or Riot Kitty deserves to be at 1,000 by now. But yeah. And yes, go sub to those other YouTubers too, like Geeks and Gamers. If you guys like Geeks and Gamers takes and stuff, sub to them. Sure. Absolutely. If you like OG Star Wars, sub to her. Absolutely. She does great lore stuff. Even though she and I don't get along anymore much, she does great stuff. I'm not going to deny her content or has good stuff in it. But yeah. Anyway, folks, thank you for tuning in. Y'all have a wonderful day. And always remember to stay humble.